Welcome to our
Hello.
podcast, to our podcast slash video series where we Monday CRM interview our partners, and this has been a really interesting series so far, and I'm excited to talk to you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company, please.
Amazing. Thank you, Danny. Very excited to join you today. So my name's Julia Hannold. I'm the managing director here at OrangeDot. So OrangeDot is one of Monday.com's platinum partners. We are CRM specialists, and we support teams that are onboarding onto the CRM and work management that have more complex problems or more technical needs requiring integrations or migrations. That's where our team comes in to support.
Amazing. And I'm already in into this conversation because you said Monday CRM specifically,
Yes.
which is obviously what I'm trying to promote here. But we've spoken with a few partners. They do both. They do work management. They do, and it's honestly it's exciting in general to talk to customers that use all the products, and obviously the connections
Right.
between them are important. But specifically with CRM, as this is what I'm leaning more into, and all the sales angle, it's even more interesting how it comes in effect with different industries. And do you have when you look at your partners, are there any specific industries that you work with? And if so, which ones and how did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, because of what I mentioned before with OrangeDot, we support a lot of the more technical or complex customers. So we do support a wide range of industries, right? We've done a lot of manufacturing, CPG, retail, education. But one industry that we specialize in that we've done a ton of work in is nonprofits. And nonprofits is something that early on in our organization, we had a few incredible clients that were nonprofits that came to us, and they really showed us kind of what those main pain points are for nonprofits. And I truly just found a love of working for nonprofits. I mean, obviously, there's something incredibly special supporting a team that is making an impact, supporting a mission, really making changes and providing a service to the community. I mean, to me, there's nothing better than providing my skill set to be able to support that. So for us, it was really a no brainer to kind of really dig our heels in and support the nonprofit community with a CRM like Monday CRM.
Yeah, that's amazing. And honestly, this is the third conversation in a row where we had a conversation from a partner that specializes in education, and then you hear
Oh,
about like children and all that, and then the health industry, which is even more, and now nonprofits. So it keeps growing. Like this is like the impact is on a different level than
mm,
just business. Obviously, business is great. We're all here to work and succeed. But I totally understand that it's extra special when there's like real lives of people involved at the end of it.
absolutely. It makes such a huge difference when, a lot, especially with remote work today, where, I sit at home and I sit behind a computer and I talk to people and I type on my keyboard. And to know that at the end of the day, what I'm doing is going to change somebody's life or give somebody support that they need to get better or whatever it might be with the many different nonprofits we work with, to me, it's worth sitting in the cold basement at my computer to help
For
them.
sure. For sure. So you mentioned Monday CRM that's as the platform, and then you mentioned nonprofits, which usually, I guess they're not as sales oriented, but maybe they are when it comes to maybe raising money or stuff. How do you actually see it like combined in real life?
Yeah, that's such a great question because when people think of nonprofits, right, the entire mission is that it's not for profit, right? It's about mission and impact and not making any money. So where does sales come in? So the reality is that a CRM is really customer relationship management, right? And that C can be replaced with whatever you need it to be replaced with. It's really just about relationship management. So to me, it could be DRM, right? Donor relationship management or fundee relationship management. So when we think about the CRM more as relationship management and not as sales, we're able to really expand the types of teams and people that are able to use it. And so when we think about nonprofits using the CRM, a lot of times they're using different pipelines and areas of their CRM to intake the various ways that they earn money to support the nonprofit, right? So a lot of times there's potentially shows that they're doing, right? Maybe there's events that they're doing, or then they also have merchandise that they're selling. And then they have just email campaigns, right? Information that they're sending out. So there's a lot of different avenues that they're trying to get donors, right? And have people support their mission. And it can be really difficult for nonprofit teams to get all of that data into a central system so that they're able to see where all of their income is coming from and understand where to put the most efforts. That's really one of the biggest challenges we see with nonprofits is just a lack of CRM, even, right? I mean, reality is a lot of times it's spreadsheets. We see spreadsheets a lot. Nonprofits live off spreadsheets because one, they're not used to having a tech stack. A lot of times nonprofits don't have the spend or the budget for a tech stack like that. And also spreadsheets are just comfortable, right? A lot of these organizations are dealing with volunteers or people who aren't super tech savvy, and so this is really a huge challenge that we see with nonprofits using the CRM. So we've found ways to, like I said, expand what a CRM can do to allow them to create that central system where they can get all the donor and merch and ticket information and everything in one system and be able to track those conversations, track what they purchased, what event they attended, and all these great things, so that they can obviously make the right decision, send the right email the next time, instead of just hunting down an email hoping to find what that last donor spent and be able to track it somewhere, right? It's that is definitely, I would say, when it comes to what we see in a nonprofit CRM, it's more about relationship management and less sales.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think while you were talking, and like a thought came to mind is that there's a few kind of nonprofits that everybody knows, like in every country, in every industry, there's like a very well-funded, there's always more need, but these are the ones that you know about. And there's a bunch that are smaller and less funded and struggling for every dollar. And not to be too salesy here, but a more customized small but with potential to for a bigger impact platform, I'm guessing could be very relevant in these cases.
Absolutely. The one of the really important things that we're looking at with nonprofit teams, like I mentioned, they're not super tech savvy. So we don't want to throw them into something like one of the bigger CRMs that we know of that are super complicated, difficult to use, right?
And
You need an
expensive.
admin, this or that, right? Yeah, very expensive. So this is, we don't want the teams to feel like they're going from spreadsheets to like this crazy complex system. So Monday's user interface and out of the box infrastructure is so easy for a nonprofit team to get used to and get set up in. And then the customization and all the building that you can do in it allows for the scalability. Because I always tell people we don't want to put you into a Ferrari if you've been riding a bike, right? Because you need to learn how to drive the car before you can get into a fast car. And it's, there's a lot of important things there. So to me, Monday allows these smaller teams to grow because they're absolutely, we have massive organizations using Monday.com, as we know, but it's built really to allow smaller teams to get in and scale with it. And so for a nonprofit, that's a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, for sure. And so you mentioned many challenges, obviously. And would you say that this kind of learning the basics is the biggest challenge that you come across when it comes to like implementation, or maybe it's something else that your customers come in and it's a more, I guess, a popular issue that you have to deal with?
Mm. I would say when it comes to implementation, the biggest issue is that knowledge transfer from emails and spreadsheets to a system, or even if it's another system. A lot of times we see nonprofits using a like nonprofit specific solution, maybe that's smaller, less customizable, but then it's got a very specific way of working. And so they have to get out of that format and into a new format. But I would say that honestly, a lot of our nonprofit organizations only see benefits because, as you understand, somebody working at a nonprofit, they love their job. They care about what they're doing. They are making an impact day in and day out. So they're not the type of person sitting behind a computer hoping they don't have to do work. They're looking for a tool or an opportunity that's going to make their day better, that's going to save them time. And so that's one of the things I love about working with nonprofits is getting on a meeting with them and being like, oh my gosh, I didn't have to spend an hour pulling that report this morning. That totally saved my life, right? And so to me, it really like 99% of the time, it's just happiness and people who are like, oh my gosh, I have a contact board now. Oh, I have a place to see where all the merch came through. So it's, it's very different. Like we said, we love business, but sometimes there's a different experience using an employee of a business who's like, well, I don't know if I want to use this emails and activities app. Or, the nonprofit is like, oh my gosh, please, I've been waiting for this for 2 years. Thank you so much. So I would say it's just helping them understand how to use the tool to make sure that they're using it correctly and efficiently is definitely a challenge. But other than that, the teams just love having something to use.
And have you seen this change like this? You're saying like a lot of them transition from spreadsheets to a system maybe for the first time. Have you seen this change over the years? Maybe, in general, there's a better knowledge, understanding of technology in society in general. Is this something that they're more easily susceptible is not the word, but like more easily implementing now than let's say 5 years ago?
That's a great question. And absolutely, yes. I think that the technological advancements haven't just affected the CRMs or the tools that they're using, it's affected their entire dynamic with their customers and their donors and the relationships that they have with them. Because, 20 years ago, it was more around like galas or like big events and kind of like specific donation times or things like that, where now it's more really high touch, lots of customization and personalization, lots of emails, lots of virtual things. So there's a huge demand for more communication and more contact with your donors than there used to be, where you used to be able to send like a letter during Christmas time or holidays. And that would suffice as kind of like a communication, right? Where now it's like, no, if you're not emailing them once a week and telling them about all the events that are going on, you're losing out on opportunities for donations. And so without a CRM or a tool to allow you to find the people quickly, know what they like, communicate the right things to them, you're losing out, a lot of potential donations there. So I think that it's not only that like technological advancements have supported and given them more tools, but also their dynamic between the donor and the nonprofit has changed in support of that technology.
Yeah, you just reminding me those. Remember those lines with telephones and like a big special, and there's like a
Yeah.
celebrity or someone, and people come in and they call some random lady in the middle of America, "Hey, this is a campaign to donate for something." It's like, you think
Yes, and it
about
was on
it.
all night, right? Yeah, it is such a different world 20 years ago for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And so, okay, so I'm guessing, seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these implementations for various industries, not just
Mhm.
nonprofits. What would you say, like, I'm kind of looking a bit up, a general kind of a sales, or not sales in this case, but potentially the same system, common mistake that you see when people set up their systems and just in general the way they work with the CRMs, maybe specifically with Monday or others.
Great question. And I've said that a lot. You ask a lot of great questions. So uh, one of the things that I notice when teams are setting up a CRM and they don't have a partner or maybe somebody that understands how to set up that CRM on staff is that they miss all of the connections that they should be making between all of their boards and workflows in their system. So, for example, when you have, like say we have a lead come in from potentially like a merch purchase, or it goes straight into an opportunities board and then it gets pushed to a contact board, you want to make sure that you are able to go back to that original entry point. How did that person get into your system? Where did they come from? Was it a show? Was it merch, right? Did they make a donation? And then we find out that they actually attended an event. And if I don't have that connection to their contact, I can't see that that original email that was sent to them is what triggered them to sign up for that event that they came to, right? And so now I can see that full life cycle of the donor or the relationship that they have with that donor because of all those connections that we made in the system. And so sometimes there are a lot of built-in connections that Monday comes with out of the box, but depending on your own workflow, you may be building in other branches. And if you break that connection as it moves from that kind of pipeline area, right, into another part of your system, you could then lose all of that historical information. I mean, not technically, the data's there, but now you have to go hunt for it, right? And so those connections are what allow you to easily click a card and say, oh, great, they came from this campaign. Awesome. Now we can see 20% of people that signed up for this event came from this campaign. Let's run that one again. right? And so without those connections, they're not going to be able to make those decisions or make better decisions to move forward with what worked, right? What actually brought people into the system. So, of course, getting the data in and communicating and tracking activities, all that stuff is amazing. And that's pretty out of the box and straightforward for people. But some of those connections I think people will miss. And then it's really hard to go back and retroactively make those connections in an infrastructure. It's doable, but that's something that OrangeDot does in the very beginning, working with our customers, is support that infrastructure and figure out exactly how we need our workspaces, our boards, and everything to be organized and connected so that everything flows smoothly together. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Something that we see people missing a lot when they do an implementation on their own.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because I think that these are also sometimes the simplest things to fix or to set up, but they have the
Yeah.
biggest impact because just if you actually have the realization, which is why I'm glad you said it, and we can even make a we can cut this moment that you just said because I really feel like a lot of times you can show some playbook for some crazy setup and wow, it's super impressive, but maybe it's not relevant to me or I don't have the resources, the time or the partner that has the knowledge,
Hmm.
whatever it is. But it's like, wait, before you do all of that, just basically, do you know the process? Do the of your own company, forget even the CRM of your own company. Do you see these connections between the departments and are they connected in the CRM? And these things aren't necessarily the most complicated to set up. You
Not at
just
all.
need to stop and think about them for and with all the partners I spoke so far, everybody mentioned first you need to understand your own business.
Right.
Then you go to set up the system. And this is exactly like that instance that you see this disconnect between the your plan in your mind and what actually is going on in real life. So I really like that. Um, and so speaking of crazy setups, um, again, you've seen plenty, I'm sure. Um, do you have something that comes to mind when you think of like you just saw a setup, or maybe you were asked to set up something that you were just, this is wild stuff?
So I wouldn't say that I've said no a couple of times, and it's only really around how much data you want to sync in between your systems. But other than that, I always say that the setup should match the business. And sometimes it might look a little wonky to someone else, but if it works for them, it works for them. What's funny with nonprofits, and I'll say, is a lot of times we find pipelines that only have one stage and it's just closed one because there's no actual like prospecting going on in the pipeline. And that could be a little confusing for somebody going into a CRM and just seeing like a fully closed one pipeline. But in this case, it's because they're integrating with all their other tools like Stripe and where so they're actually just pulling in donations and merch and ticket sales, so that they can then use the amazing tools of that the pipeline has for reporting. But there's literally no prospecting going on in there. I always find that a little funny when you think about like that's like our other industries, like the pipeline is their bread and butter, right? That's where the reps live and
Yeah.
breathe. And so for other industries, for it to just be like a reporting tool, it's kind of funny. I always find.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about flexibility and customizability. Each company gets to set it up the way they like.
Yeah.
Um, And we're always obviously the big buzzword is AI now, and Monday is heavily leaning into these areas with cross the board functionality. Um, have you seen this impact nonprofits maybe like for me, first things that comes to mind is just usability in general and making
Hmm.
things easy, especially to your point of moving from kind of a traditional method of working. But yeah, if you can say anything about that and how you see it in your day-to-day.
Yeah. So AI in nonprofits is such an interesting space because it's advancing so quickly. And nonprofits, like we mentioned, they only have so much budget for technology, right? So they're careful and they're cautious about AI and making sure that the money that they're going to spend is going to return and they're going to have some value. And there's just, still some questions around what the most valuable use of AI can be. And so what's great about the Monday CRM is that there's a lot of different options to use it. it really can be as simple as like pulling sentiment from emails and being able to understand kind of how people are responding to their campaigns that are going out to them. I've seen some clients using that just so that they can highlight when we need to have a second touch with a donor who may not have a great response. That just is something that they've really enjoyed using. But I think another thing that nonprofits are going to love about AI is a tool like Monday Vibe, because to your point, allowing them to enhance that UI in a more custom fashion that is specific to this nonprofit or this program that they're running is going to move mountains for them, right? Because instead of having, like, if they've got a process that may be a little bit more difficult visually in a Monday.com board, we can say, hey, no problem. Let's tell Monday Vibe exactly how we need to visualize this. And then you get all the power of Monday with the new UI. So we've been seeing a lot of nonprofits use Monday Vibe just to simplify the kind of visual that some teams are using. Because, like, for example, a project manager or someone that's in there wants to see all of the data, but there may be volunteers or people that we really want to kind of zone in on exactly what they need to edit or what they need to fix. And Monday Vibe makes it so that we don't have to make them think, right? It's like, hey, you click this button, clock in, right? Got your signed in, no big deal, right? Whereas in before with Monday, you might have to use a form or you'd have to find your item in a board. So while that's great for an end user, for a volunteer, not as much. So Vibe has been really helpful, and we actually built a really cool like clock in, clock out UI for a nonprofit that is has volunteers coming to support the cleanup of houses during disaster relief. So they have like tons of volunteers and people that need to clock in, clock out. Where are they working? And so Monday Vibe was a great solution for that. So I think that's definitely an area that nonprofits will see a lot of usage and value in AI.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing because it just brought me back to my early days of programming, very early and just for a short while. And just sometimes just visualizing the task is hard. It was hard for
Yes.
me. I guess maybe that was the
Yeah.
reason why I didn't continue it because you get this challenge like, wait, I can't even like visualize, and this is specifically visual, and I'm even talking about writing the code for it, which is a different level of knowledge. And here you're just like, hey, just say what you need. Like that's
Right.
just say what you need and it will happen, which is
It's amazing.
truly amazing and magical. Feels like magic. Um, so you personally, as a Monday user, um, do you have any like I guess go-to features that you like that you immediately think, oh, we have to, like with almost every customer, this is what we're implementing. This is my go-to feature that I kind of have a playbook that I work with and stuff.
Oh, I love that. So I think that, every partner may do it differently, but what we've talked about a lot here is the flexibility of the Monday CRM. And so when we're building a setup, I would say 98% of the time, we build the same connection functionality for all of our clients. And that's something custom that we do where we go in and we build what we call these existing contact/account indicators. And what this allows the system to do, and I think Monday has something similar set up, but it's not as robust as what we do. And it allows a workflow to basically look at whatever trigger the team wants, right? Because right now I think it's built with like a leads board. And so if the organization wants a certain trigger or a certain workflow starting point for their qualification, we can custom build that so that those connections follow from the lead board all the way through opportunities to contacts to accounts, and so that every time there's an opportunity, the contact has a connection. And then the account has all of the contacts with all of the opportunities. And the opportunities connect back to the lead where they came into. And all of this is just done automatically in the background of the system. So all you have to do is qualify your lead, and the system makes the contact, connects it back, makes the account, connects it back. And so we help slot in those other workflows because there may be some where they want to send it to work management, right? Because they need their project team now to know that this is going into the pipeline and they have to start their process. So it's really important that, like we talked about, that beginning infrastructure, you think, okay, this is kind of the foundation of your CRM, right? This is the workflow that sets all of the data, puts it all into the right places. So we really need to think about this and make sure we're doing it right. So we set that up in like a single robust workflow. And it can be just a pipeline, contacts, and accounts, or it can be multiple different boards. So I would say what we would call that existing contact and account indicator using workflows is something that we set up every time.
That's awesome. I really like that. So as we're approaching the end, and I have a couple more questions, um, how do you, so this again is something I asked before, but I wanted to kind of slightly change it. Usually asked, how do you measure success?
Mhm.
And the same answer keeps being repeated, which is the usability, right? At the end of the day, we want people to use it. But maybe if we go a bit deeper here, how do you encourage usability specifically? Like, I understand that you come in, you show the product, you show the value. People understand that it's valuable. We've seen this in many tools. How do you actually make them use it?
Right. I
Like,
mean, that's $1 million question. And it's such a unique experience for every organization. We always tell organizations we lead with the carrot, right? We show, like you said, this is the value you're going to get out of the system. This is what it can do for you. But I think one of the most important things that OrangeDot does differently is we include end users in all of our discovery conversations. And I'm not just talking about the manager, right? This is the person that's in the system making things happen, right? Making the sales. We're talking to the reps because they're the ones that are going to give us the best feedback about how the system actually needs to be used, right? Or what needs to be done there. So to me, that's a huge thing that we're doing that allows for that success to happen, right? Because if the end user can come in at the beginning and say, hey, this is how I need the system to operate, that's how we're going to set it up. Whereas in a lot of times when we see CRM implementations fail, it's because leadership is giving the direction. And while we need direction from leadership, we need to know what's important about a CRM to them. What reporting are they trying to get out of the CRM, right? What are the goals for your permissions and your overall architecture? But then I need to ask the end user, what should your item card look like? Which fields do you need to have to make this sale faster? Right? What connections do you need to have to work with your team faster? Because they're the ones that have the answers to those questions. So I think that including end users and making sure that they feel heard and valued and are part of the setup, then they're gonna have a stake in that. They're gonna be like, hey, I helped build this. This is important to me. This isn't just another tool that leadership threw at me and now I have to figure out. Like I helped build this and I'm helped make it good for my team. And so we see a lot of benefit in allowing them to feel like they have a stake in the implementation, even if they're not manager or like executive level, right? Like some people may usually consider. We feel those to be the most important people that have the most impact in our projects. And then we also recommend hypercare support. And we see that being a huge success as well. So our hypercare support is just depending on how much you want office hours weekly, where you can kind of hop in like 11 a.m., 2 p.m. for 30 minutes. An OrangeDot expert will be there and you can hop in, you can ask questions, they can workshop something with you. But we have found that with the teams knowing that their leaders set them up for success by allowing partners to be there to help them with questions and really just make them feel comfortable, then they're saying, hey, they really care that I need to use this tool, right? I want to do it well. So again, leading with the carrot of like showing the value, making sure that we've got the right people talking about it, right, making the CRM, and that we're supporting them long term, not just like walking away as soon as the CRM is set up is how we see the most success.
amazing. And have you seen sometimes a conflict between what management comes in, they're like, this is a tool and this is how we want you to use it, versus the actual eventual users that are like, this is not how we operate or how we intend to operate.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty regular occurrence.
Okay.
And
I
it's
thought it would
and
be
it's
a
not
rare, but
it's not it's not a bad thing though. I find I love having conversations with managers or leadership and the end users where the end user says, X, this is how I do X, Y, and Z, and the manager says, wait, what? How do you do it that way? Oh, I love that. That's great. And right, they learn things, right? Because their end users are just going a mile a minute. And so they learn so much about their business and have so much more respect for what their teams are doing when they involve them in this process, right? Because we have experience where it's really kind of leadership tells us what is needed, and then we go to start testing the system, and the end user says, "Where's this? Where's that? What's this?" And leadership says, "Oh, I didn't know you used that in the system." Oh, okay. And it's like, "Oh no." So it's like we we need to make sure that we've got who's using the system, to make that decision, and then leadership to help guide them, right? Of like, hey, this is the goals of having a CRM. These are the goals of these are our mission. This is what we're moving towards. And so, like, here's how we can set up the system to help you with that. But I find it's not a bad thing, right? It's actually a good thing when they're learning more about their organization and kind of improving together, right, as a team.
That's awesome. I immediately went to the conflict place, but yeah, I guess it's an opportunity for transparency and learning from both sides because a person can come in, the actual employee that will use it and say, that's just how I'm gonna do it. It's like, well, if it doesn't help with the eventual goals of the company, like what are we doing here? But
Exactly.
also on the other end, like for management to see how people actually work, I think it's kind of rare for management, especially at the top, to actually see the use of kind of the tools that are being used by everybody. They may buy it, they might sign off on it and see the eventual benefit at the bottom line, which is great. But this is an
Hmm.
opportunity to actually see how it works and it opens more questions. Um, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation. I had one more question, but we kind of went into it while we were talking about the
Oh,
one
great.
previous. So we covered it as far as I'm concerned. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. And I'm really, really like actually glad to see these kind of like business tools eventually being used by all these other industries that are really helping beyond like cold business.
Absolutely. It's made such an impact in our day to day and our culture, right? I mean, to be able to go into our like kudos channel and say, like, hey, this case management setup, saved this nonprofit this many hours a week. I mean, we all cheer for that. There's tons of emojis. I mean, it's so exciting to think that this person can now get some more sleep or, put their energy towards something else instead of having to build a report because Monday does it now. And so it's really we love specializing in nonprofits and really enjoy working with that industry.
Amazing. Thank you, Julia, so much for your time. To our listeners and viewers, please check out the full conversation and follow Orange Dot and Monday CRM if you came across this on all the channels. And have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, everyone.